So there's green burial. Now, we just started a new brand a couple of years ago called Intera Green Burial by Mueller Memorial. Aquamation, or alkaline hydrolysis.
Or water cremation. There's so many different ways to spell it. Yeah, it's new. This is something, actually it's not that new. It was started at the Mayo Clinic many years ago for their Body Bequest program. And so, if the Mayo Clinic is doing it, it's top notch. So it's a way for people that are a little bit more environmentally conscious to take care of the disposition of their body. It's a wonderful process, I think, and it's what I would choose myself also. The body is put into a stainless steel vessel. The vessel is then filled with 95% water and 5% alkaline solution. It is warmed up and then circulated around the body, and in the course of several hours, the soft tissue and muscle is dissolved, and then what remains is the bone, which is very similar to flame cremation as well.
But non-destructive.
Non-destructive, yes. And as a result, 20% more cremains come back to the family when all is said and done. The bone is then taken out after the first process is done. The bone is taken out, dried, and then it is processed into a fine powder that looks very similar to that of flame cremation, although it's much more white. It's much more fine, and like I said, 20% more comes back to the family.
Yeah, it almost has a consistency of like a sugar or a coarse ground flour. Is very much like that. So the ashes that we get back are really not ashes. They are the things in our body that cannot be consumed by either alkaline hydrolysis or flame, and that is the bones. And they are processed so that individual bones aren't able to be decipherable. And there's a good reason for that, because people do scatter ashes. You don't want to have distinguishable bones out there that might be scattered. In addition to that, a lot of people have had hip replacements, knee replacements, things like that.
Yes.
What happens to all that?
Oh, I get lots of questions about that. Yeah, and it's a good question too. The extra body parts that we have within us, those are removed not before. Someone asked me the other day, is that taken out before cremation happens? No, it is not. It's left in the body. And then after cremation takes place, after alkaline hydrolysis takes place in this example, which we're talking about, those parts then are just sort of there, and they're recycled. They are recycled ultimately.
They're sent off to a medical recycler, and because again, those parts are individually numbered to the patient. You don't want that out there. But alkaline hydrolysis has taken on a great deal of interest, and especially with you, because you're explaining this to people who are choosing it for themselves. And so of the people that are choosing cremation or that kind of disposition, how many people want alkaline hydrolysis and how many people want regular flame cremation?
Probably 50%.
It's unbelievable.
It's quite a lot, and quite the remarkable thing too, I think, is a lot of people come to meet with me and they have never heard of water cremation before. So it's just remarkable that after the story is told, a lot of folks say, oh yeah, well, I've been recycling all of my life. I care for the environment. I want to leave this world a better place. And this is sort of like your last act on earth, is to do something that's environmentally sustainable.
Well, and a lot of people have different reasons for it. I met with a person who I know who is facing their own death, and they want cremation, but they don't like flame.
Yes.
I said, there is an option that we can offer to you. And she was very, very happy to have that option. She doesn't want burial. She wants to be cremated, but just a little different twist with the alkaline hydrolysis.
Conversely, I met with someone, a couple last week actually, and she said, oh, I don't like water. When I was explaining alkaline hydrolysis to her, she said, I do not like water. And I've gotten that in the past, but she said, however, my grandson said, Grandma, have you heard about this water cremation? And he taught her all about it, and she wants it now because the grandson said, I think that's pretty cool. So she's gonna do it.
These are fascinating conversations that we get to be a witness to. They really are. And
it's big conversations to have.
It is a big, and for a grandson to have that with grandma.
I know, I love it.
That's amazing. So that takes care of burial, cremation, and alkaline hydrolysis or aquamation. So there's green burial. Now, we just started a new brand a couple of years ago called Intera Green Burial by Mueller Memorial. And Intera looks at all of the options that are less intrusive to the environment, more green in its componentry, and one of them is green burial. So explain the very strictest sense of green burial.
The most, I suppose, pure form of green burial that we could talk about is when the body is put into the ground with no embalming, no vault, and we do work with several cemeteries that can make this happen. It has been such a popular option for folks. I am just astounded and really encouraged by all the folks that are looking at this. So yes, the body is put into a basket, a carrier with a shroud on it, or there is something that looks very much like a traditional casket, but it's made out of wood. The bottom line is that everything has to be
Degrades.
degradable.
Yep.
Yes, that's right. So the body is put directly into the ground. A hole is dug, and at one of the cemeteries, dug by hand, actually, by the cemeterians that work out there. So the environmental impact is very minimal. Body goes into the ground, the grave is then covered. In some cases, it can be just natural prairie that's on top of that grave, which is really, really cool. And it's remarkable how many people are very interested in that, so much so that the cemeteries that we work with are really scrambling to add more properties because it's such a wonderful form of disposition.
Everything old is new again.
Yes, truly.
Because the truth is, this is how we took care of our dead prior to the Civil War. The Civil War is really when embalming came in. It was applied pretty routine basis. But we have the ability to do this, and we've really specialized in it. We've gotten certified by the Green Burial Council, which is no easy certification. We have to make sure that all of our staff, that our facilities are run a certain way, and that the offerings that we have are guaranteed to be certified green, and so that there's no question that we're doing the right thing. So in the very purest form, we don't even use polyester clothing on the deceased. We use everything that is degradable. And I think you've been out to one of these burials.
Absolutely.
And option that is chosen most often, honestly, is the least expensive, which is a carrier. It's a wicker kind of carrier that degrades very quickly, and the body is wrapped in a muslin sheet, and there are clothes, or there are flowers put on top of it, and brought out to the grave. And it is a highly, highly personal experience.
It really is. It is so special. I just came away with this overwhelming sense of peace, and this is a really wonderful option for folks. And I can see why it is just increasing exponentially in popularity. It's beautiful.
Because we really have made a specialty of this, we have a separate website, which is www.interra, burial.com. And you can go there and you can learn about all these different forms of disposition. And we specialize in it so much that we are going 100 miles outside of our city to take care of people because they appreciate our willingness to provide the kind of options that they want to have.
Absolutely. And as you often say, our license works in the state of Minnesota.
It works everywhere.
Not just in White Bear Lake and East St. Paul, it works everywhere. So we're happy to take care of those families.
That brings us to the last form of disposition is terramation. Terramation is a very new term that a lot of people are not aware of, but you're probably going to become more aware of it in the state of Minnesota. Terramation is a process called natural organic reduction. Now, this was kind of invented out in Washington State, and it is a process whereby the body is placed into a container with alfalfa, lots of alfalfa, wood chips, things like that, and the container is closed, and it's held for about 35 days. During that 35 days, the temperature in there is kind of regulated, but there's no heat that's pumped into it. There's no chemicals. There's no electronic intervention at all. It is all naturally reducing. Your body is kind of waiting to decompose.
It is. It's that gut biome that just goes into production and takes care of it.
And it happens pretty quickly after death, which is why we came up with embalming. For a lot of people, they like this idea of when they are totally reduced, they are reduced to a compost, to a nutrient-rich compost.
The same that you would go to a flower and garden center and you buy compost. it really is indistinguishable in my eyes.
Now, there are very few providers of this, and there are 3 providers in the state of Washington, and I have looked into all 3 of them, and we have aligned with one. And it doesn't make the others bad. Again, it just means that we have our faith in this, so much so that I've sent all the staff out there.
Well, yes, all of us have gone out. It was fascinating. And really, you go out there with a healthy dose of skepticism, but once you see the facility and the engineering that has gone and the thought and the resources, it is...
And the people behind it.
Well, that's just it.
Yeah.
Yes, you're absolutely right. That's a huge thing. The team is fantastic. You come away just with no questions in your mind that this is a wonderful, wonderful way to take care of the body when all is said and done.
So the company that we use is called Return Home. We know all the people there. They know all of us because all of our staff, including Annie and our office manager, have been out there because there is no greater way to learn than to actually go there. And we have helped, we're the only funeral home in the state of Minnesota, we've helped 7 families go through this process. And the people who choose this are enthusiastic about it.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
They are very enthusiastic about it. And we have a package price that includes all this, including shipment out to Washington, which is, and I don't want to shoot myself in the foot, but which is less expensive than a burial here in the state. So it's less expensive even with the air freight out to Seattle. Very, very green option because there's virtually no energy used. The heat that's generated in this container is actually generated by the body itself and by the decomposition. It's just managed.
Yeah.
And it's managed by air that comes in there. There's no smell. It's an amazing, amazing process. And because of that, Taylor, your sister, who works on our staff, was very, very involved in getting the legislature to approve it. And it's been approved for Minnesota, and it will be available, it'll be legally available here July of 2025. Now, whether there's a provider to provide that or not at that time, we're unsure. But we still have this great relationship with a trusted partner.
Yes.
And so if you're interested in Cremation, we recommend highly our friends at Return Home, and we can organize all of that. We work very, very well together. In fact, so well that one of our funeral directors is now working for them.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And it's got folks that are watching might wonder, what happens with all that compost? How much compost is left when all is said and done, and what do you do with it?
So there's about 230 pounds of compost that is left. And that compost, the quantity of that takes up about, forgive the comparison, but it gives you an idea of the quantity, about the size of a small refrigerator, these bags will. And so you have a lot of options with that. You can either receive all the compost back, you can receive part of the compost back, like a bag or small bags, because a lot of people have planted a tree and use this compost around it. Or they Return Home has an option there where there's a conservation space where they're able to put this compost and make it part of this conservation space, which will be maintained as a conservation area forever. And so there are a lot of good options.
Yeah.
But the people that I've dealt with that want this, it just resonates with them because they say, I just want to become a tree when I die.
Yeah.
You know?
And this is the way to do that.
It is.
Yeah, really.
It is. And we're the only funeral home, to my knowledge, that offers all of these options, and we are equally schooled in each one.
Absolutely.
All of our funeral directors have really leaned into, including myself, have leaned into green options, not just with the burial, but with the acclimation and the terramation. And we think we are offering the most comprehensive set of disposition choices that you can have in the state of Minnesota. And I think it's important for people to have as much choice as they can.
Absolutely. Individualism is the name of the game, isn't it? Everyone has their own story. Everyone comes with their own values and traditions, and we want to be able to accommodate folks wherever they are in life, and we're happy to do that. It's wonderful to be able to offer all those options to folks that come to us.
So it's come around quite a distance, because when I first got into the profession, everybody who died was embalmed and was buried in a cemetery. Very, very few cremation, maybe 2%. Now the cremation rate is going to be approaching 75%, and we have these other options that we didn't even think of.
Yes.
Didn't even think of back then. There are some interesting things to consider when they meet with you.
Absolutely.
And so a great place to start is go to our website at enterraburial.com. Another great website is ours, which is MuellerMemorial.com.
So much information on both of those websites.
Yep.
A wealth of information. All of your questions can be answered on there, but certainly there will be others that arise as well. And we're happy to facilitate any questions that folks have. Yeah, so
In fact, your green customers, the people that come in requesting Enterra,
yes,
they're pretty well informed.
so
aren't they?
well informed. They're well educated, they're motivated, and I love it. It's a really neat group of folks that come to me
It is.
for the Enterra brand.
It is.
And I love to work with them.
Yeah, again, it's something that I'm very proud that we've leaned into. And honestly, this really started with our funeral directors who
It did,
came to
yeah.
me and said, hey, I think we ought to do something different here. And I couldn't agree more. It's really been great because, again, it focuses on how people say goodbye and giving them a very personal way to do that. That's what we're really about at Mueller
Sure
Memorial.
is. Yeah, absolutely. You know, Scott, you mentioned various ways to say goodbye and different forms of disposition. There's also different cemetery options. There are alternatives to traditional cemeteries that we usually think of traditionally, where the ashes would go or where a casket would go. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
We forge important partnerships with people we trust. We don't pursue any kind of relationship with any company we don't think is going to have staying power or we don't get a good vibe from. We've gotten a great vibe and we've got a great relationship with a company called Better Place Forests. And Better Place is a very interesting option where they own a forest here in Scandia, which is about 30 miles outside of the Twin Cities. A beautiful, beautiful area.
Gorgeous.
Beautiful piece of property on a lake. It's going to be a conservation area, and you can go and you can buy a tree. Now the tree isn't planted. That tree's been growing there for sometimes 60 years before you walked here. And you buy it and you have the right to be able to put 6 sets of ashes there, including your pets if
How
you
great
want to.
is that?
It is neat.
It is so cool.
Because believe it or not, some cemeteries have a regulation against pet ashes being buried with the person. We don't pay attention to those, but it's just an out of touch thing. Better Place Forest gives you an option for things that are just different, and we've been out there several times.
We have. It is tremendous. What I love about it is that you can buy a tree, or as they call it at Better Place Forest, a forest memorial. So you pick out your forest memorial, oftentimes decades before you pass away. There are people, their customers are in their 30s, in their 40s. I am just astounded at
And they go there. They go there to take a walk in the
my point.
in the forest.
They go there. They take a picnic out there. They bring their pets out there for a walk. They really incorporate it in their life and make it something that's special for their family for years to come. And then when death does occur and their ashes are scattered around the tree, it's like going home for their family. It's taking a walk. It's so relaxing. There's a beautiful lake right there. There are birds flying above. And you hear the rustling of the leaves. You can go any time of the year. Winter's a little not as often,
Right.
but it's certainly accessible too. But all that being said, a different experience than a cemetery for some folks. And there again, that unique offering that's available is something that wasn't available in the recent past, and now it is. And so just the options have really expanded quite a bit, and we're so delighted to partner with Better Place because they do just a tremendous job. Great group of folks out there.
In fact, one of the things that they just came up with
Yes.
is a scattering
Grove.
Yep,
the scattering grove.
And so a lot of people want to scatter, but they're reluctant to scatter on their own property because they may not live there for a while, forever, and that type of thing, which is a reasonable thought. So they've got a scattering grove, and it's great. And you can go in there and you can scatter the ashes there, and they'll mark person's name on a tablet there, and there'll be a place you've got the access to the same forest, all that type of thing. And because it is so new, and because we have such a good relationship with them, they have given us special pricing that we can make available to you. And we know that there are about 20% of the households, believe it or not,
This is fascinating. to me.
20% of the households
In the
in the
US.
United States have ashes in them. I can't believe this. It's not to be believed. And then I realized I have some in my house that I have yet to deal with. So it's 1 in 5 households have ashes. They are still looking for an option for that type of thing. And if you're looking for it, this is a great
It's perfect.
and reasonably priced option for you. It's a permanent option. It's in an area that makes for a lovely trip to go out there. And Scandia is a neat little community. And if you're interested in it, you should contact Annie
Yep.
at Mueller Memorial, because we do have special pricing on it that isn't available to everybody else.
It's a great option.
It is.
Terrific option.
It is.
Well, we've discussed a lot of these options, haven't we, Scott?
We have. and
Many
I-
things for folks to choose from.
And the more that we talk about it, the more that I think we really offer a comprehensive choice to people. But because we offer a lot of choice, we, as the funeral professionals, need to act like a funnel.
Yeah.
So we listen to what you say, and we kind of help distill your decisions down so that it isn't so overwhelming.
That's right.
And that's what our responsibility is to you. And so we're always pleased to answer any questions, whether by phone or go to our website to answer that, or to talk with Annie in person, or myself for that matter, that we're always happy to answer any questions that you might have.